I was recently asked to give a lecture to a group of college students as to why they should care about writing in the age of AI. This is what I came up with. God, that's a fucking terrible hook. Just roll the clip of the guy from the hot dog eating contest.
When I was a kid, I wanted to be a writer. I did a lot of writing in the years after college, and I think trying to be a writer is an exercise in pain.
On June 30th, 1967, in a publicity stunt to celebrate the 100-year anniversary of the invention of the hot dog, the folks at Nathan's Famous on Coney Island put out a folding table and a call for a human garbage disposal who could eat the most hot dogs in an hour.
The man who answered was a 400-pound truck driver named Walter Paul, who downed a staggering 127 glizzies in just 60 minutes flat. Let's take the Caballero.
While this feat was impressive, coverage of the event was less than inspired and was said to have only drawn dozens of spectators. However, Nathans knew that the human appetite for spectacle was as insatiable as their hunger for tube steaks, so they persisted for decades, slowly growing the event into a regular but modest 4th of July sideshow until 1991, when an aspiring PR mogul and former English major named George Shea turned it into the main event.
His weapon of choice? The pen.
Are you ready to sip from the volcano? Are you ready to ride the tornado? Make love to the dragon? And before she even placed him to her breast, his mother held him close and whispered in his ear, "You are of my flesh, but you are not mine own. Fate is your father, and you belong to the people."
A master storyteller, Shea wove characters and plots into the contest. He created heroes and villains, sometimes problematic, upsets and stakes, and his introductions transcended freak show into high art. It worked. Throughout the 90s, the contest started drawing tens of thousands out to the event, and in 2004, it was picked up by ESPN and has been broadcast live every year since. Yet the basics have never changed. So why are we so drawn in? 1.
Because real human passion is captivating. It is just as much about the stories that Shea tells as the effort that he puts into telling them.
We are interested just as much in what he is telling us as we are interested in why a man would be so moved to put this much work into telling us about it. We care because he cares, and that is wildly contagious.
And 2, because humans are flawed. We don't watch the hot dog eating contest because we like watching hot dogs get destroyed. We watch it because we like seeing heroes get made.
Is there a more efficient way to dispose of 76 hot dogs in 10 minutes than using Joey Chestnut? Yes. Is there a more entertaining way? Not a chance. It's interesting because it's hard, because he might not do it, not because he definitely will. This is why we write, and why writing is an exercise in pain, because it will never be perfect. It will never exactly articulate the ecstasy and agony of the triumph of the human spirit over a plate of hot dogs, but the fact that you are listening to or reading someone's harrowing attempt at it connects us.
It's a rare thing to capture the exact moment that your life is about to irreversibly change. It's likely even more rare that you've made a silly 30-second Casey Neistat edit of that moment and posted it to your Instagram stories for about 150 people to see, but here it is. I edited most of this on a 2018 flight from Oakland to Burbank on a quick trip to help my mom, who had just been diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer, transfer from the hospital back to her home, where she would spend the next few years receiving treatment until her cancer goes into remission, and then we figure out a new normal. Or so I thought. See this moment right here? It's where I drop my bag on the curb and I throw deuces up to the camera. This is it. This is the last second that I lived in that world where there was a chance that she would recover. This is when my stepdad picked me up, and when he broke down in the car ride back to their condo, where neither one of them had been for a week, when I realized that things were so much more serious than I'd let myself believe, that the story that I had been writing about the future, about the present, was largely a work of fiction. The actual story, it looked like this. I would drive to the hospital alone while my stepdad taught a Zoom class on screenwriting. I would make it to my mom's bedside moments before she was rushed into emergency surgery that she would never recover from. I would hear the last words that she ever said to anyone out loud. She would pass within a few days, and a few days after that I would be laid off from my job and things would get pretty fucking dark. But We'll come back to that. But this guy, frozen in time, drinking an overpriced Starbucks coffee in front of his phone in the Oakland airport, he'll never know that. Maybe it doesn't seem like this to you, but this was a story that I wrote to myself to remind me that there were lighter times before all of this. This is why we write, because we are the sole observers of our unique experience, and our memories are often working against us. And we desperately need a historian, a documentarian, to give us the grace of a kind mirror to the past, to let us know that there was a time before this pain. And though it may be impossible to believe now, it will come to pass.
Now here's a story of how it did, at least for a little bit.
The weeks and months immediately following my mom's passing were pretty blurry. I didn't know how to structure my time, let alone how to orient my place in the world now that the person who cared about me more than anything was gone. And then one day, a box showed up from some old friends, and inside there were some cookies and a stuffy and a mission. There was a letter inside, and it read, "Blake, I am so sorry to hear about your mom. As you navigate the waves and oceans of grief, please know that we are thinking of you and sending so much love. P.S. When Roxy, their 4-year-old daughter, learned that we were baking cookies for you because you were sad because your mom passed, she wanted to give you her teddy bear so you could feel better." Smiley face. Now, there is a high likelihood that young Roxy did not understand the gravity of her own tremendous act of kindness, that she was just doing what any little kid would do to try to participate, but she happened to send her stuffed bear to an unemployed writer who had a lot of fucking free time and a giant hole in his heart. And so I was determined to write her the best goddamn thank you note in the world. The following words and images are what I returned to her about a month later.
Dear Roxy, thank you so much for making me these delicious cookies and letting me borrow your bear. They made me feel so much better. For a while, I just sat on the couch and felt very sad, which is okay to do sometimes, but after a few days, I decided I wanted to show your bear one of my favorite places. We went on a long hike, and at the very top, we could see the San Francisco Bay. I used to come here with my mom, and it felt really nice to share this place with someone new. I also practice a martial art called Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's kind of like wrestling with your friends in pajamas. I had a big tournament coming up, but because I was so sad, I didn't know if I wanted to do it. I talked it over with your bear, and we decided that I should at least go to practice and give it a try. If I didn't have fun, I didn't have to do the tournament. But when I got to practice, it turned out to be a lot of fun, and I introduced your bear to some of my teammates and friends. I was just feeling so much better that I decided it would be okay to do the tournament. But when I got there, I was a little nervous, because before, if I ever got scared, I would just call my mom and she'd make me feel better. But instead, I just looked at your bear and I felt so grateful to have friends like you and your family, and it made me feel happy and brave. I ended up getting a silver medal, and I wanted you to keep it because you, your bear, and your family helped me earn it. Your friend, Blake.
This is why we write, to explain to a child how profound their small act of kindness is, because it requires that you must first try to help them understand what grief is, and in order to do that, you must first understand it in yourself. George Shea was right. Writing is an exercise in pain, but he forgot to mention that the cure for pain is in the pain itself.